Mr. President, I'd like to speak about nominations for the U.S. Department of Education and the approval of those, or I should say the lack of approval. Mr. President, it is no secret that Democrats in Congress hate President Trump. For months, they've held up his nominees for key positions in the government. Now, the strategy may serve their hatred of President Trump, but it is harmful to our country. One example of this is that the nominee for the Federal Railroad Commission was held up months after he had been approved unanimously by the Committee of Jurisdiction for his appointment in the federal government. And as it resulted, there were multiple fatal crashes in the railroad system, of which Republicans were on a trip and one of them occurred, that may have been prevented had there been leadership in that railroad commission. Now, we have a sense that there can be a consequence of this kind of unremitting, whatever Trump proposes, we're going to oppose no matter, just because it's Trump. But then we see the consequences when folks die in railroad accidents. I will note after the last set of fatalities, that hold was lifted and the nomination was allowed to proceed. Now, sometimes it is not so clear that the damage is occurring from this kind of whatever Trump proposes, we shall oppose. In one of these cases, it involves, multiple of these cases, involves the Department of Education. One example is the nomination of Brigadier General Mitchell Mick Zayas for Deputy Secretary of the U.S. Department of Education. President Trump nominated General Zayas in October 2017. Now, over 6 months after his nomination, we still do not have a Deputy Secretary of the Department of Education. General Zayas is qualified for the position. He served as South Carolina's elected State Superintendent of Education, President of Newberry College, a Commissioner on South Carolina's Commission on Higher Education. He served his country honorably and faithfully as an infantry soldier in the U.S. Army for 31 years, again retiring as a Brigadier General. A little-known fact about the General, he is dyslexic, an issue I care passionately about that affects 20% of our nation's population. He knows firsthand the struggles of dyslexia and how, with the proper evidence-based resources, our children with dyslexia can learn to read and have a successful future as any other. Now, ensuring children with dyslexia have the resources they need to succeed is a legislative priority for me and also for General Zayas, as he indicated, when he is finally confirmed. Democrats have imposed 30 hours of debate on nominees they support by forcing cloture votes. They have forced more cloture votes in the first year of the Trump administration than in the entire first terms of the last 4 presidents combined. Mr. President, these delay tactics have consequences. Just as they did for the rail system, they do for the education of our children. And it is a tragedy that Democrats are playing games with our children's future. One example, a not very good example, not good for those affected. The National Assessment of Educational Progress, or NAEP, released its nation's report card. The results show that our nation's children have not made gains in reading and math. In 2017, nationally, only 40% of 4th graders were considered proficient in math, and only 36% were reading at grade 4 levels. Mr. President, this is unacceptable. If a child learns to read in grades 1, 2, 3, after that she or he reads to learn, and if you can't read by 4th grade, you may never be able to read to learn as effectively as you need to succeed in today's economy. But Democrats hate Donald Trump so much they would rather risk a child not learning to read than to have their future prospects dimmed than to easily approve a Trump appointee. Mr. President, the time is now to stop the obstruction. Let's put our nation's children educational needs first and confirm the remaining nominees to serve at the U.S. Department of Education. This is not about Donald J. Trump. This is about the children of our country who, if they don't learn to read and do math proficiently, shall have a future which is less than it should be. And that should be a bipartisan concern. Thank you, Mr. President, and I yield the floor.